Hey everyone, so we have had some crazy weather in the last few days, and I wanted to kind of give you an update on how my garden handled the weather that we had and some of the things I've learned that I need to do differently, because I'm sure we'll have more extreme weather as the summer goes on. So let me tell you a bit first about kind of what we've been experiencing the last few days. So I think it was Monday night, it was about 3 days ago, that we had a tornado warning. Now, as someone who was born and raised in the Midwest, usually when there's a tornado warning, that means everyone goes outside to see if they can see the tornado. But this was the first time I've actually been nervous that I might actually be close to a tornado, because essentially it was around, I think, 6 or 6:30. It got pitch dark and completely still. And I've never really experienced that drastic of a change in weather. We actually didn't get a ton of wind, and there was no tornado that developed, luckily. So no strong winds, but we got very heavy rain, like almost hail, but not quite. And a few of the things in my garden either broke, luckily not too many, just a few breaks that I'll show you. And then a lot of stuff bent. So I'll show you how I'm kind of combating against that and trying to get things upright again. Then, following the tornado warning, we had 3 days of almost 100-degree weather, and that is absolutely not normal for the middle of June. I mean, it's not even typically that often we get 100-degree days in Chicago in the summer at all. So I'm kind of nervous that we've had this heat already, and it's not even technically summer yet, although it might be by the time that I post this video. So I have learned some things from the extreme heat that I'm going to use moving forward, but let me go around and kind of show you how my garden handled all of that weather the last few days. Now, I would actually say for the most part the garden did pretty okay, or the majority of the plants did pretty okay with the heat, but there's some areas, as you can see here, that needed a bit more protection. So my dahlias back here all started to wilt, and they tend to wilt anyway during the hottest part of the day, but not like what I was seeing here where I was afraid they were going to die. So I moved the chairs from my table here and put up one of the covers that we use on the furniture in the winter, and that's been able to give some pretty good shade so that the dahlias themselves don't wilt. Now, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been a little bit of damage, and that's because I didn't really notice the wilting until the mid part of the first hot day. So first off here, I'm using these plants to hold the cover on, but first look at these dahlias. Now, this is Thomas A. Edison, which is supposed to be a deep purple. This is not deep purple. We'll see what happens when they're, I don't know, fully in bloom. But here you can see there was some burning on these buds. So I think the buds are still good. I'm hoping that just the outer edges were burnt and those will bloom like normal. What is interesting though is these two dahlias did not have any issues wilting. So 2 of these are the same variety as 2 of them over there. I'm thinking that it might be because I pinched these dahlias, whereas I didn't pinch the other 2. Coming over here to this side of the garden, now what was in this pot was my bee's friend, and that was the one where the stalks were kind of splaying over the side, and because we had such heavy rain, the stalks were pushed down on the pot and they basically all snapped off. So unfortunately I had to get rid of that, which I really loved. But someone had recommended putting a coleus up on my flower cart, some other flowers there that I'm going to do a project with in a little bit. But I thought it would be nice because I have some yellow flowers over here. I got a nice kind of pink purpley coleus, and I think that'll work right here. However, because this coleus, even though it's called, I think it's called Sun Lover, let me see. Yep, Sun Lover coleus, did not love the sun in the 100-degree weather. And again, I kind of had it out here against this wall, which gets the least amount of sun just in the afternoon, but again, the afternoon can be the hottest. And you can see here that the leaves are starting to turn brown a bit. That's kind of the most common issue I'm seeing, is just some browning on either some of the flowers or the leaves from the heat. So after I realized that was happening, I've been keeping this in the shade. Temperatures are going down now, so I'm hoping I can keep it here in what will be its permanent spot and that it recovers. But yes, I learned very quickly that needed to go in the shade. Other things up here did pretty well. No major issues. I mean, some of the blooms don't look, you know, as happy as they would if the temperatures were slightly lower, but still good here. Coming down here to my hydrangea. This is the only one that really had an issue, but this also, if you can tell, got bent, which I don't actually mind the look of it. I don't think I need to prop it up or anything, so I'm probably just gonna leave it. Also, even though these flower heads I think were some of the older ones, I definitely have more browning on the petals here. So this side of the deck gets shade, but because the sun is so high, there isn't really much shade that casts down on the wall. So basically, I'd say from here over, this plant is in full sun for the majority of the afternoon. Leaves look good, just the blooms look a little bit tired. Now let's come over here to my poppies. So this one, I mean, I think they're going to survive, but this probably makes me the saddest because they had just started to form buds and flowers when the heat kicked in and basically burnt all of the new flowers, and you can see here some of the buds. So this one has definitely, I feel like, been struggling the most. This also got flattened, so these were all splaying out. So what I did, I tried some twine at first, it wasn't really working, but I took one of my shorter cages, flipped it upside down because it was wider on the bottom, so it was easier to get the plant that was already established into it. And also I didn't want to poke the actual cage into the soil and damage any of the roots. So I flipped the cage upside down, carefully tucked the plants in, and I'm hoping this keeps my poppies upright. It's been pretty windy and they're doing okay. So I think this will work. And then eventually I will take this cage off. It should be easy enough to slide off, but I'll be gentle when I do that as well. But I would like to get this to flower nicely without flopping over or getting burnt. Over here, same thing happening with these hydrangeas that was happening with my blue one. These blooms are relatively new, but you can see here a lot of browning from the sun and the heat, even on this one right here, which is a newer one. So we'll see how those turn out. Some browning here on those, and this one I'm also seeing some browning on the leaves. Now, as I was talking about, pretty much this back part is in shade, this part is in sun. I'm only seeing the browning on the leaves that were in the sun, so I'm assuming that is the cause and not some sort of other issue or disease. But if you think it is something else besides just getting burnt by the sun, definitely let me know. Everything here pretty much did okay. The rose, fruit, veg. The only other one where I kind of had an issue here is with my aronia berry bush. Now these have pretty flimsy stalks, so this was more splayed out horizontally. So I just tied up a little bit of this with some twine and hoping that keeps it in a more upright position. And I think I've showed these before, but there are the berries coming in. I'm also having some, I think, powdery mildew on this one as well, so I've been spraying it with the fungicide. Now, one of the things you need to pay attention to when it is this hot is the moisture for your plants. So we got rain actually last night, which was kind of a nice break, but prior to that I was just constantly checking to see if any of my plants needed water, keeping an eye out for anything that was wilting, but I was hoping to catch any sort of watering needs before the plant started to wilt. So what I did is I actually turned off my automatic drip system and just checked manually and watered them then, because some of my plants in their containers held on to water pretty well, and I didn't want to water everything and potentially cause some more root rot in some of my plants. So a lot of the larger containers held on to water pretty well, but the smaller ones definitely needed watering once, and some of them twice a day. So that was something that I definitely paid closer attention to, coming out multiple times a day and just sticking my finger in the soil and seeing what needed to be watered. Some of the things I've learned is that, one, I need to figure out more shade for my garden, because looking at the projected weather, we're going to have some more 90-degree, not high 90s, but low 90-degree days. But again, I can only imagine what is coming for the rest of the summer. So although my tarp is fine, I'm going to figure out a way. I might use some bed sheets because those are a little bit lighter, so hopefully I can cover some of the plants with them. I know that you can buy shade cloth as well, which I might do, but I would prefer to use stuff I have and not have to buy something new, but we'll see how that goes. I also saw somebody else who container gardens in the city using, I think they're called shade spots, and it was from a website that was like shade for plants or something very self-explanatory. I'll see if I can find the photo and post a link below, but they're like circles on sticks that you stick into your containers to provide shade just for that container plant. So yeah, I need to figure out some ways to provide shade. Umbrellas do not work up here, or if they did, the base is too heavy that I would need to be heavy enough to keep the umbrella from flying away. So one of the downsides of a rooftop deck, things will fly off of it. But if you have any ideas for providing more shade to your garden, let me know. Definitely at least for my what seem to be more tender plants when it comes to the high heat. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I guess things that I did not do. So I basically did not do anything else to my plants because I didn't want to stress them. So I didn't prune anything, I didn't fertilize anything. I did like regular checks for pests, but it seems like they were probably hiding from the heat as well. So just kept things watered, low maintenance as possible, making sure things survived. And so far, most of them, except for the bees friend, have. So I think that's going to be everything. Let me know if you've been having crazy weather lately. We'll see how the rest of the summer goes. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.